Jr. And we can't forget he's joined Fox as an analyst during the season and didn't communicate that to some of the higher ups. So, Stephen A., if you're Washington, how are you feeling about Norman?
I'm worried. I'm very worried if I'm the Washington Redskins. I'm saying, my God, I hope he backs this up, not just because we went and paid him $75 million over the next 5 years, guaranteeing $50 million. It's because of the attention he's bringing to the franchise, which may ultimately work against us. You have to remember that the Washington Redskins worked diligently to get itself beyond the RG3 era. Well, what was the RG3 era? The RG3 era involved a sensational rookie who, in the eyes of many, started feeling himself too much that the Washington Redskins became, you know, RG3's Redskins. And as a result of that, they felt, or they perpetrated the narrative that his head got too big for him. And as a result, it divided the team to some degree, and we weren't able to get things back in order until we got Kirk Cousins up in the house. How accurate that is open for debate, but that was clearly a perception that RG3 had to fight himself through. He ended up in Cleveland. It's not just that Cleveland chose him. He ended up in Cleveland because nobody was knocking down RG3's door to get him to be their quarterback. Why? You know, the bottom line is that when you look at him, he's a good guy, never gets in trouble with the law, highly intelligent, okay, a stabled individual. He just got caught up in the brand that was RG3 instead of RG3, the football player. The Redskins worked diligently to move beyond that. Now here comes Josh Norman. You're Josh Norman, and you're talking a lot. You're bringing that kind of attention to you. Now, I don't want to come across like I'm somebody that's getting on Josh Norman, you know, like he's so wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he needs to be concerned, because he needs to understand that his words, what comes out of his mouth, resonates to a point where it transcends him and starts affecting the other people around him. He may very well be able to handle it. He may well be able to live up to it. But the question is, what about the troops around you? You got a potential for a huge divide existing in the Washington Redskins locker room. Kirk Cousins is in a contract year. He signed a one-year offer, franchise tag, $19.95 million. Two of his wideouts, Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, are not only in the last year of this contract, but were sitting at home in the offseason when they watched the Washington Redskins draft this kid Doxson out of TCU, who's going to be considered a stud at the receiving spot, which means that one of them could ultimately get replaced if indeed the opportunity presents itself for that to happen. Alfred Morris is gone. Matt Jones, your running back, hurt his shoulder during the preseason. As a result, what's happening there? It's going to be more of an onus on guys on the offensive side of the ball. So you're competing with them in practice. You're getting the better of somebody, or they're getting the better of you. You never know what kind of divide that can create. On the defensive side of the ball, you and Breland are considered the studs, because y'all are considered one of the top four secondary tandems in all of football. So when you look at it from that perspective, you got to show up and produce. So you've got your pressures. You've got pressure around you because of the pressure that's on those guys to produce. And I'm just saying that if everything comes together, it's butter. It's all good. But the second something goes wrong, you never know where it can fragment and fall apart. And if you're Josh Norman, you're not being sensitive enough to any of that. And that is what can lead to the Redskins disintegrating before our very eyes, which is not beyond the realm of comprehension. So I just think it's something that he should watch himself with as it pertains. And if I'm the Washington Redskins, I'm very, very concerned, because we're making news, but at the same time, we're doing a whole bunch of talking. And the eyes of scrutiny are going to elevate exponentially. And I don't know if this team is equipped to handle it. Remember, I didn't pick them to win the NFC East. I said on paper they should win it. But the reason I didn't pick them is because I accused them of being allergic to prosperity. Remember, I said that. That's my concern about the Washington Redskins.
Washington, if they feel like they spent their money wisely, should like this. But this comes down purely to whether or not he produces. And even then, what does that mean, and even then? You can be a shutdown corner, which he's not exactly. He's a different kind of corner. But even if you're a shutdown corner and do a job on a guy like Odell or Antonio Brown, or to stay in the division, Dez Bryant, or think how many great receivers there are in the league. We were talking about it yesterday. There's DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. There's so many guys. And you could be shutting them down all afternoon, and it takes one play where you get burnt. And it's going to be, sometimes it's not even your fault exactly, but it's going to be obvious for everyone to see. And you will be the GOAT when you've drawn that. And by GOAT, I don't mean greatest of all time. I mean the bad guy, the villain, when you've drawn that kind of attention to yourself. So you have to produce. And this coming from a guy, by the way, who's joining a team now where the quarterback has come out and said, I want to be like the Spurs. This is like the Spurs signing Allen Iverson in his prime or something like that. That doesn't make sense. Now, kids, I'm going to take you back to 1977 for a second.
Oh, my God. This better be good.
Reggie Jackson is signed by the Yankees before he was known as Mr. October. And he sits at a press conference. The Yankees have just been swept in the World Series by the Big Red Machine, humiliated in 4 straight games. And Reggie holds up a bat and says, the Yankees will never be embarrassed again as long as I'm holding this in my hands. And the papers and baseball was huge at the time. The Yankees were huge. Everyone went crazy, lost their minds. What are you saying about Thurman Munson, the team captain at the time? What are you saying about this team that just got to the World Series? How dare he this, and this? But he put all that pressure on himself. And in the World Series that year, he came up his first year with the Yankees and already hit 2 home runs in that World Series so far. And in Game 6, hit 3 in a row off the first pitch, off 3 different pitchers each time. The final one went to dead center field, a huge shot. And the Yankees won the World Series. Now, if...
Hold on.
Yeah?
I have to interject.
Go ahead.
Baseball is an individual sport where somebody can walk up to the plate and literally change the complexion of an entire game with one swing of the bat.
And though that's not...
Football.
Yep. And though that's not quite the same...
It's not the same.
It's not quite the same in football, but the cornerback position in particular... You are charged with going up against those home run hitters. So as I said, you can strike out that home run hitter all day long. But if Odell Beckham or Dez Bryant, or whether it's out of the, the AFC, Antonio Brown, whoever it is you're up against, burns you one time, particularly with the game on the line, you have not lived up to it. So I say all this to say the following. If I were Washington, this is usually not the way football works. If my quarterback just said, I want to be the Spurs, I don't love this, and etc. But if I'm a Washington fan and this dude comes through in the end, that's like the greatest. That's the athlete you root harder for than anyone.
I agree with that.
The one who goes out on a limb and says, against all odds, I'm going to do the impossible, and then does it, but now he's got to do it.
I agree with it, but it still doesn't make sense. And here's what I mean by that. Because there's no way on earth that Josh Norman can come. Josh Norman is going to be in Barry's defensive. He's the defensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins. He's going to put him in zone schemes a lot more often than not. Everybody's been talking about that's why Josh Norman in the Washington Redskins uniform was the perfect fit, because of the zone schemes that they employ in the nation's capital. What I'm saying to you is that a lot of that, what does that mean? That means your success is dependent on people all the time. Rarely are you in that mano-a-mano kind of situation where you and your excellence comes shining through. You're dependent on everybody else. You're covering areas as opposed to covering a man.
But in the
not only that,
in the end, there's going to be the camera on you covering another dude. Did he catch it or not?
Yeah, you could say that, but at the end of the day, again, if you've got a zone scheme, then ultimately your success is dependent on the pieces around you. Josh Norman is sounding like he's going to have an opportunity to be mano-a-mano. But here's the thing. People are going to be demanding. That's exactly what they say. When the Giants go up against the Redskins, nobody want to hear about no damn zone. We heard you. Excuse me. Where are you? We don't want to see Odell on the right and Josh Norman on the other side, or Josh Norman in the middle. Oh, no. You've been talking. We want to make sure if Odell Beckham Jr. goes to the bathroom, you should be outside the door.
Exactly.
You should be outside the door. If Odell Beckham Jr. runs across the middle, you should be there. If Odell Beckham Jr. runs to the sideline to talk,
matter of fact, why aren't you with Odell right now? Where's Odell? You should be there.
That's what the point.
But beyond that, next time you think Odell is going to drop 2 passes against you, don't let him go for 2 touchdowns and 175 yards next time. You can't do it. How do you go to work the next day?
All right, we'll leave it there. You know who's good going mano-a-mano? Kobe Bean Bryant. He went out on a high note, putting up 60 on the Jazz at the Staples Center. Then he was Mamba out, and now it's Mamba Day in L.A. Does Kobe deserve his own day?